Welcome to the show, everybody. I want to remind each of you to like and subscribe. On YouTube, you can find us at Film Talk Radio. There's more than 120 videos that you could watch. I'm very pleased to be joined today by the co-directors of The Original Badass, and that's Maestro, my friend, my brother, Godfrey Reggio,
Hello, thank you.
and Samantini Chakraborty. Hi, Samantini.
Hi, nice to meet you, Paul.
So I've prepared some questions, but let's just jump right into it. It's a short film, The Original Badass. What can you tell us right away?
I could tell you the following. Of course, I made a film, Koyaanisqatsi, with all the badasses in them. However, I have the ability, as others, to hold contradictory ideas and point of view at the same time. It's called this and that. So this is never a movie that I would have thought of making, ever. All the things that we call our accomplishments are the things that are killing us. And I did that in Koyaanisqatsi. So this makes for really odd fellows in Samatini and I. Let me put it this way. It can be two things. God says that we can speak through the jawbone of an ass. Okay. And the ass is the original badass. So I felt that, gee, I could buy that. I would never have thought of it myself, but Samatini, who's done so much research on it, has figured it out. So I'm happy to participate. I'm happy to do something that I would have never done had it been left to myself, because I make films about Koyaanisqatsi. It's about how the blessings we have turned into nightmares. This is the world we live in. So I'm happy to be this and that. I'm happy to sign on to the original badass. We don't want to say who that is because we're not allowed to say who to vote for, but you will get the picture. So that's kind of where I started. And I'm happy to work with Sabatini, who has an encyclopedic mind of doing everything and speaks 3 times faster than me. So I'm happy to be part of this project.
Samantini, anything to add to that before we move on?
Thanks, Godfrey. It was an honor to work with you. We live in a world it's full of chaos and anger and rancor, and it's a country divided. And in a time like this, I wanted to make a film that brings people together, something that fosters a sense of hope and optimism, a sense of pride, really. And as I was telling, Godfrey and I, when we were talking initially, this is not a film for Democrats or Republicans or independents. It's a film for all Americans. This is, it's a celebration, right? It's a celebration of American ingenuity, innovation, and influence, which is so innate to the American experiment. So that's what this film is about. I hope that people watch this film and realize that there is so much that we have to lose if we lose the American experiment. That's what I want people to take out of this. So for me, it was never about politics. The same way I don't like to make things about religion, right? Religion and politics, these are 2 things for me which I tend to shy away from a little bit. But having said that, this film has an underlying message. And the message is, look, we are an original badass. How many original badasses are there in the world? Look at what we've done and look at what we can lose potentially. That's what this film is. And it's for everybody.
So I'm glad you brought up innovation. The movie's very much about American innovation. It begins in the 1800s and takes us all the way today, all the way until today. We've talked about some of the innovations that you've seen during your lifetime. What is the
Yeah.
greatest innovation? Is it antibiotics, the polio vaccine? Is it soap and disinfectant? Which invention do you feel like has advanced humans the most?
Well, that which has it, whether it's advanced them the most, I don't know. But AI is the big accomplishment. Um, as it becomes more intelligent, it'll become more intelligent than us. So we'll be tied to AI's wagon as we already are. Everything in the media, everything in our world, the war, everything is predicated on AI. I'm happy to say that in a film I did recently, Once Within a Time, there are 472 images, and only one half of an image uses AI because we had to get it out before, uh, and we didn't have time to do that one half shot. So we're using human intelligence, and I'm very proud of that.
Sementini, anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, so I think you know, internet was a very big thing when it started, and as an extension of that now, to Godfrey's point, is the artificial intelligence. And there are two extreme kind of viewpoints depending upon who you speak with. Either AI is going to kill us or AI is going to save us. And the truth is somewhere in the middle of it. And I think, the $64,000 question is, at the end of the day, it's all in the hands of people, because AI is something that's picking up information that's residing in the ether that it's pulling out of. It's a history, right? So it depends upon the humans how we use that information. So I mean, I'm hopeful, I'm cautiously optimistic is what I should say.
Right.
You were saying something, Godfrey?
Yeah, I was going to say that AI is not something we use, it's something that uses us. We hear all the discussions on TV about how we can control it, how we can manage it, how we can uh, give it direction. But the truth is, we're on for the ride. Or that's how I see it, that AI is taking us to war depends on AI. Everything depends on AI today. And it's been around for at least 50 years. And we only found out about it when the Pope was dressed in a white coat and blah, blah, blah. So it's very dangerous because it looks very helpful. The helpfulness of it is touted everywhere. That is something I would want to question.
And if I can jump in here for a second, to your point, Godfrey, as I said, it's taking our collective data that's residing in different places and it's making something of that data. So we are as good as the data that's available right now. So if the data is biased, AI is biased. If it's not, then it's not.
Right, right. Well, everything we do, even our conversation now, is all recorded. They know more about us on Facebook and all the other gizmos than we would possibly imagine they could know. They know
Mhm.
side of our mind. In Texas last year, they showed how they can read the mind of the person not just the behavior through the computers that act upon us. So it's something that we're in the beginning of, but it's been happening for over 50 years. It's just that we've not been aware of it. It's that which is most present is least seen, and that's artificial intelligence.
Some of the innovations in the film are artistic. The film centers on innovation, and some of them are jazz, motion pictures, and the advent of talkies in the 20s, and then many of them are scientific and cultural innovations. Is there a distinction between an artistic breakthrough or a cultural breakthrough and a scientific breakthrough?
How do you mean?
So, what's the difference between an artistic innovation and a scientific innovation?
Yeah, if I may speak to that. So, as I said earlier, it is a celebration of ingenuity, innovation, and influence, right? So the ingenuity would be something like a drive-through, right? Versus an innovation would be chemotherapy. And we've looked at and influence would be music or cultural influence like Elvis Presley, Marilyn Monroe. And we've looked at the music genres. Obviously, there's so many that we could have included, but only the very first of each we have tried to include. And, it's a short film. Obviously, we couldn't include everything, but it's to give a flavor for what America has achieved. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, Godfrey, do you want to add anything about artistic innovation versus scientific innovation?
Well, I think we should keep the scientist in the cage. Don't feed the scientist, okay? That's my thought. Um, it's like an autopsy. Um, we use art to describe the madness of the world we're in or the badass that we've become. So it depends on your point of view. As I said, I can hold contradictory points of view, contradictory ideas, and it makes them all real as well. It's not something that we decide to do, it's something that it decides to do with us. So in that sense, Sabatini's film allows us to see all the things that we've done and allows us to see them in a good light because of the intensity of what is going to inflict us in the next 10 days or so.
And when you say 10 days, I imagine you're referring to the presidential election. And at the end of the film, there's a pretty clear message. It says, vote, period. It doesn't tell you who to vote for. So could I interpret that as a call to vote for a third party?
I wouldn't think so. This is not Jill Stern. Uh, we're not, it's not a third, this is not Robert Kennedy Jr. These are the big boys. These are the people that created all the stuff that are our benefit, to our benefit, but really you have to question that. Is it to our benefit? Like some of the things we didn't include, the things that we created, like the atomic bomb, the hydrogen bomb, all these things that we didn't want to disturb the point of view that we were offering. We wanted to show all of the glitz that we've done, and those are real, and we are innovative, and the rest of the world follows our innovation, which is, for me, interesting and scary, both at the same time.
Simontini, anything about third parties you'd like to add?
Well, as I said, this film was created for all Americans. Um, Having said that, our conversation of late has devolved into eating cats and dogs, right? So this hopefully is an antidote to I mean, this is basically showing people, look at what we've done, look at what we have achieved in the world stage. And hopefully that gives people an impetus to vote their conscience of what is right, because at the end of the day, this is now a critical time to cherish and preserve a fragile American democracy. So that's what this film is about at the end of the day.
My own point of view is that no politician, right or left or middle, uh, is worth trusting because their interest is themselves. So I don't trust politicians.
So you mentioned Jill Stein. Gloria La Riva has been on the show to talk about socialist movies, and she was the candidate for the Party of Socialism and Liberation in 2020. The candidate this season is Claudia de la Cruz, and she's not yet agreed to come on the show, but I hope she does. What do you say to people who are thinking about voting for Claudia de la Cruz or Jill Stein?
That's their business, you know. I think it could be with everything so close, literally close, centimeters away from each other, those kind of votes could tip the election one way or the other. Either way, whoever wins, we're going to get a badass.
That's for certain. Ralph Nader said that the only difference between a Democrat and a Republican is the speed at which their knee hits the floor when a donor enters the room. Tell us, what is the difference in this specific election?
How do you mean?
Um, Somebody like Ralph Nader would say there's very little difference between the Democrats and the Republicans.
I agree.
In this specific election, what is the difference? I think Simonini mentioned preserving democracy.
Yeah, so what I was saying is, at the end of the day, this film is apolitical, right? I just want to be very clear about that. It was not made for Democrats or for Republicans, but it's very clear as to which party stands for the rule of law, preserving democracy, things of that nature, right? There's a thread of that which is there through the film. There are many things one can derive out of it. I mean, I have seen conversations about this film on the internet by very staunch MAGA Republicans, actually, also by very conservative Republicans. They all agree it's a great film. They might not agree with many things in the film, but it's the truth. It's a documentary, so it's based on the truth. So that's what America has done and given to everybody. How that has changed over time is where, my particular, for the lack of a better word, sadness lies, because this is such a great country. I hope that people watch this film and realize that there is so much that we have to lose if we lose the American experiment.
Godfrey, tell me a little bit about imagination. They say necessity is the mother of invention, but I think imagination is a tool that you employ when you set out to create something.
Yes. Um, how do I say it? Everything I do is for the right brain, the reptilian brain. It it's who we are. So I try to use the subconscious or the subterranean world in all my films to pick out what it is I'm going to do. What I do is not meditate, I contemplate. And the difference between contemplation and meditation is the following. Meditation is something you do on your own. When you have a insight, when you have something that is coming from your imagination, it gives you something unexpected, and it becomes the tableau to write in the subconscious. The subconscious is who we are. It's not, the subconscious is the rootal structure in which we live. Um, it's the canvas of art. Art can be an artopsy if it deals with the reality of the imagination that we could create for as who we are.
Now, Godfrey, I'm noticing you're sporting a shorter beard and a sort of cat burglar attire. Tell me a little bit about that if you can.
Well, I always wear black for whatever good reason. You don't have to prepare any clothes. You just put on black. I've been wearing it since I'm 14. And it's because it kept getting in my mouth of food. So I clipped it a little bit. But other than that, it's the same.
Now, can you tell us about imagination as it pertains to your work? When you're making a movie and you're doing the whiteboards and you're tapping into the depths of your imagination, what is there? Explain to this audience what goes on in the depths of your imagination.
Well, that's where the scripts are written. They're written they're written not to give you information, but to give you a feeling of the subject. Thomas the Compass says in The Imitation of Christ, would you rather know, love, or feel it? So that was like a marching order for the films I do. I've read Thomas Aquinas. I read Thomas a Kempis since I'm a little boy, and a brother and the brothers, and that made a lot of sense to me because my films don't tell you what to think. It gives you an experience that tells you what it thinks. It's 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 going to the subterranean zone, which is who we are. There's the sky above, there's the earth that we walk upon, and then there's the subterranean, the rootal structure that we all pay attention to. I do talking papers, I write it out, I try to parse it, and then once it starts, it's all about images. I get rid of all of the words. For a film with no words, my films always begin with a word because I know that the limit of my language is the limit of my world. So this is what I try to do. I try to show the limits of the world we live in so that we cannot think we're going over the edge.
Seamontini, tell me a little bit about putting together the team for this movie and when Godfrey Reggio signed on, was that a thrill? How did that all come together?
It was such an honor and a privilege, really, working with Godfrey. He has been a huge inspiration in my life. And my previous film, Joyful, it has done very well. And it was Godfrey's Kanoscazzi was actually an inspiration. And I sent it to him, and I was hoping he watches it and he likes it. I didn't expect to hear back from him. He actually called me and he expressed how much he enjoyed the film. And it was definitely a thrill, and I said an honor and a privilege. And then at that time, I had started working on an AI film, which I put on hold to work on the original Badass. But I could see the temperature of what was happening in this country. There's so much anger and hate. I said, and I had this film kind of sort of taking shape in my mind for a while, but I, called up Godfrey several months back, And I said, Godfrey, this is what I'm thinking. What are your thoughts? Would you like to work on this with me? And he really liked the idea. So, very grateful he came on. And then I reached out to Gil Talmy. Gil Talmy is an Emmy nominated, very, very emotive kind of a composer. I really like his work. He said the reason you guys are making this film is sign me on. I'm very interested in working with you guys. Then when we started working, then I reached out to David Aubrey. He is a two-time Emmy nominated editor and cinematographer and director. And he and I worked very closely together, and it was such a honor working with everybody actually on this team. So yeah, it was a collective effort. It's something that we've all done together, and we're very proud of, the fact that the film is resonating so much with people around the country. And in a short period of time, it's just been 2 weeks, little more than 2 weeks. It has now reached all 50 states and more than 11 countries. PBS is going to air it soon. Bloomberg's newsletter mentioned our film a couple of weekends back and asked people to watch and vote. Ken Burns, recently on all his social platforms talked about our film and asked people to watch and vote. And that was such a huge honor and a thrill, really. And Democratic Mayors Association, they loved it so much they sent it around to all the mayors to put this out on social media and have people watch and vote.
Were there any innovations that didn't make it into the film?
Oh, there are many. I mean, over time, originally this film, I had thought of making this film into a 3-minute film. Then that got increased to 6 minutes, then to 9 minutes, and then it stands now at 11 minutes. The problem with doing it at 3 minutes was we could practically include nothing. And where we are right now, the thought process was that it should have enough diversity so that even if we are excluding a bunch of things, it doesn't feel like it.
Well, uh, I know people can see the film already in a few ways, and there's a website. What's the website?
It is www.theoriginalbadass.us. There is also a shorter one, which is easier to remember, maybe. It is www.obadass.us.
Now, Godfrey, any final words for this program? Any call to action? I know you're wanting your your group of minions to come and cause mischief in the night. Some message to these listeners from Godfrey Reggio.
This film is all about us. So I'll give an example. When the female lion has her cubs, they're born stillborn, and she roars them into life. This is what this film can do. It may roar us into life from our comfortable places, like the lion roars her cubs into life. So it's a provocation. It's a way to start breathing again. And that's what this is about. An opportunity to start breathing human breath for the badass we are.
Well, that's a show, everybody. And I want to thank Godfrey Reggio for joining us. I want to thank Simantini Chakraborty, the co director of the original Badass, for joining us. And we'll see you next week.
Bye bye.